Shabbat Shalom. On Zoom, can you hear us this evening? Thumbs up if you can hear us. Good. Good. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everyone. We are beginning, as we always do, with music. We are thrilled to have Natalie joining us on the Bima this Shabbat. We hope you'll sing along with her. And we begin with Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
Oh, nope, let's do it in this key. Yeah, this key is the right one. Oh, so the words are as follows. They come from the book of Psalms. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Okay? Olam Chesed Yibaneh. May God build this world through love. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. La 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 la. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. La 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 la. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. La 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 la. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. La 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 la. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. La 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 la. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Ya da 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 da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Ya da 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 da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Da 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 da. I will build this world from love. I will build this world from love. Ya da 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 da. And you must build. And you must build this world from love. Ya da 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 da. And if we build this world from love, da 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 da, then God will build. Then God will build this world from love. Ya da 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 da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Ya da 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 da. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Ya da 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 da. We continue with Ma Yafeh Hayom on page 10.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma
page 20 and 21, we continue with the Chadodi.
Yada la la lechadoti, yada la 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 likrat kala, yada la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor, b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, Leshem u'tiferet, ve'litilai, yalalai, yalalalai lechadoti, yalalalai likrat kala, yalalalai b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem, Nehesucha, Sof Maaseh, Mashat Chila, La la la, Ya la 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 la, Lechadodi, Ya la 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 la, Likrat Kala, Ya la 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 la, B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitori, Hitori, Ki orech kumi ori, Uri, Uri, Shir daveri, Kevod Adonai, Alaich nigla, Ya la la, ya la 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 la, lechadodi, ya la 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 la, likrat kala, ya la 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 la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. We rise in body or spirit to greet the Sabbath bride. Verse 9. Boi v'shalom, Ateret bala, Gam besimcha uvtola, Toch emunei am segula, Moichala, Moichala, Ya la la, Ya la la la, lechadodi, Ya la 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 la, likrat kala, Ya la 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 la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, Ya la 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 la, lechadodi, Ya la 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 la, likrat kala, Ya la 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 la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Psalm for Shabbat 92 is on page 22. We join together in the English. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai! How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. We continue at the indent in the Hebrew in the middle of the page. At the top of the page.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
מזמושי ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. צדיק אתה אמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובו בסבו, דשנים ורעננים להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עלתה בו.
Having welcomed Shabbat, we turn now to the beginning of the evening service. And the evening service,
You just-
am I on?
No.
Is my mic on? Yay? Nay? Yay? Those of you in Zoom land, we're playing with sound. You can hear. Zoom,
Okay.
can you hear?
Lynn just laughed, so I'm going to take that as a good sign.
Good. So we've just finished Kabbalat Shabbat, which is the welcoming of the Shabbat service, the welcoming Shabbat, and now we're going to turn to Ma'ariv, the evening service. But we don't just turn from one thing to the next, because we never do that, right? So if we were going from one part of a meal to the next, we would have, a sorbet or something in between each course, right? So
We're
that's
fancy
what
like that.
What?
We're fancy like
We
that.
are fancy like that. So that's what Chatzi Kaddish is. So imagine having a nice little sorbet, and join me in the words of Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon ufyomechon. Ufchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala. Uvizman kariv. V'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach. Ve'alam lo me'almaya. Yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudashah brichu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imeru.
Amen.
And now we're ready for the next course. We invite everyone to rise in body or spirit.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Marechu et Adonai, Hamevorach.
page 30, we continue together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umesader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, umavir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Page 32.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha avta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha tasir mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
We continue on page 36. You may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 39, we continue in the middle together. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory, May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Sometimes our rejoicing is exuberant and energetic, and sometimes our rejoicing is quieter, with recognition that there are people who had to suffer in order for us to be free, and that there are people who died in order for us to be free. And so I want to offer this, I'm going to say new Michamocha, but really, what was the date on it? It's the winner of the 2000 American Jewish Music Festival, so it's not quite so new anymore. But I don't know that we've done it here before. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Try that. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Let's do that again. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Here's the next part. Norate hilot osefele norate hilot osefele norate hilot osefele. Let's do it from the beginning. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norate hilot osefele. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and the children crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norate hilot osefele. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
On the next page, we'll join together in singing Hashkivenu. This week, all of you taught me what this prayer means in a whole new way. On Wednesday, I was at the ceremony out at Shenley Park to remember 3 years since the terrible tragedy. And what I saw at that ceremony was not just a community in mourning, but a community that was coming together. A community that understood that what affects one affects all. A community that recognized that when we are all safe to lie down in peace, and when we are all healthy enough to rise up together, then we're building the kind of community we're commanded to build. And until that time, we have to come together, and we have to work together. I stood speaking with ministers of other faiths. I stood speaking with one who I think is going to end up being the mayor after next week. I stood with Jews of all different denominations, and every one of them had in their heart and their soul the sense of the words found on page 43, "Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Yes, we will go through difficulties, but we can join together. We can create a stronger world, a stronger community. We can be guided by love and care and concern. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Amen. It is still Shabbat. We do get to celebrate. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו לעם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתו לעם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש שבת ויהי נפש שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We turn the page now to page 46 or page 164 if you're following along in the larger version. We invite everyone to rise in body or spirit as we join together in the evening tefillah.
Natalie's leading us.
Natalie's doing, thank God.
Just this first part.
Do the whole thing, Natalie. Do the whole thing.
Adonai, sefatai tifta, ufi yagid tehilateha. Adonai, sefatai tifta, ufi yagid tehilateha. Adonai,
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, U'Mido Melach, Melech Meimit U'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, El HaKadosh. We continue silently now through page 181, including both the prayers of the prayer book and the prayers of our own hearts. Please be seated at your own pace.
יהיו לרצון עם רפי והגיונים בי לפניך.
Okay, the first part of this is call and response. So when I sing, you should respond to me. Repeat it after me.
יהיו
יהיו
לרצון
Liratzon.
You have to stay in the rhythm, though. Let's try this again. Yehu,
Yehiyu.
liratzon,
Liratzon.
imrefi, vegyon,
Vegyon
libi, lefanecha, Adonai,
Adonai.
Zuri,
Suhuri.
Vegoali, Adonai, Zuri, Vegoali. May the words
May the words
of my mouth
of my mouth
and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Yehu,
Yehiyu.
liratzon,
Liratzon.
imrefi, vegyon libi, lefanecha, Adonai,
Adonai,
Zuri,
Zuri,
Vegoali, Adonai, Zuri, Vegoali. May the words
May the words
of my mouth
of my mouth
and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer.
We turn ahead in our prayer books now to page 371 in the blue or 253 in the black numbers as we join together in the Mishaberach prayer, a prayer for healing. Those of you who are on Zoom, if there are names you'd like to add, we invite you to put them in the chat box now. As a congregation, we especially pray for Jeff Ruttenberg, Lou Farina, Mary Farina, Tony Nardi, Carol Blonder, Alan Wolk, George Gurneth, Kathy Lowry, Patrick Johnson, Susan Horn, Ann Rockwell, Jerry Ann Morgan, Tom Morton, Manny G., Hillary M., Harav Rachel Bat Shmuel Ufruma, Hannah Rachel Bat Betty, Jerry Spargle, Shirley Spargle, Richard, Andrea, Pearl, Judith, Susan Audrey Eichler, Michael Butler, Alex Botkin, Steffi Biersdorf, Pat Fields, Jamie Adams, Mickey Cooper, Letitia, Ruth Dudley Carr, Judith Kovach, Bill Jackson. We as well pray for all of the caregivers who are helping us overcome the pandemic, all of those who are doing everything they can to heal our society. And as residents of this community, we pray for our own continued healing, that the coming together that we experienced will be part of a new era, an era consisting of love and concern, compassion, and good health. We join together in the middle of the page.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Bera Imotenu Mekor Habraha Lavotenu. Bless those in with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We add the name of Doug Paul to those for whom we pray. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rofeh hacholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, healer of the sick. And now a moment to share good things, birthdays, anniversaries. Who has something good to share from this last week? Somebody's had to have something good. Rabbi Corbin.
Today, Yuval is 1.5, 18 months today.
Wow. Hey.
I also spent my first few days without him, which meant I got a full night's sleep a couple of nights.
Nice. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who else has something to share? Rachel, what you got?
I celebrated a Halloween party at my school today.
You did? Where's the candy for all of us?
There wasn't enough.
Man, tough crowd. Who else has something good to celebrate? We have guests here from Arizona, new residents of Pittsburgh. We're thrilled to have you here. We celebrate your being here.
Excellent. We're so happy. We're so glad to be here.
Good to have you here. Who else has? Can you hear us?
So can you hear us now? Because I just discovered that.
Now you
Okay.
can hear us?
Great.
Can you see us? Yes? All right. We're getting thumbs up.
The main Zoom was muted. We were muted on Zoom. How we managed to get muted from up here is beyond me, but
How it is that we managed to keep doing services where we've got half of our community on screen and half in person and not go completely mad doesn't make sense either. So here we are. And
that
we're
doesn't faze
surviving.
me. It's the disappearing, disappearing feed that
One
worries
piece
me.
of good news this week that I think is good for all of us is it looks like we're getting closer to being able to have the vaccinations for those who are 5 to 11, which is a big, big step forward, and will mean all sorts of good things about our community being able to come together. The likelihood of being able to share a meal together will hopefully go way up with that change. So we are very, very hopeful that we are turning a corner and getting back to a place where we can celebrate together and be together more often. Should we sing a little?
We should sing a little. Ose Shalom.
Say shalom bimrama, Say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'meru.
Amen.
Thank you, Natalie. So when I have a chance, I like to sit in the Krieger lobby over here at the front of the synagogue during the hours when B'nai Mitzvah students come in for tutoring. It gives me a chance to connect with students and their families informally, and it gives them an opportunity to know me beyond the work that I make them do. A few weeks ago, I walked into the lobby to hear a student complaining to a parent about an incident with a classmate. The parent listened to the story and asked a few follow-up questions. And then the parent did the most kind thing they thought they could do. They tried to help. Why don't you? And then they offered a potential solution. And the student replied with a drawn-out, yeah, acknowledging the possibility while clearly trying to come up with a reason why it wouldn't work. And then came the inevitable problem with the solution. So the parent tried again. And again, the student rejected the idea. And again, and again, and again. It's a good thing I walked over when I did, because both the parent and the student were getting frustrated. The one because none of their suggestions were good enough, and the other because they just wanted to complain and be supported. Sound like a familiar situation? I can't tell you how many times I've had a variation of this conversation with one of my parents or with a friend. It rarely ends well. Because let's be honest, most of us complaining or telling stories about challenges aren't actually looking for help, even if we end our tale of woe with, I just don't know what to do. We really just want to stew in our feelings, feel justified in our anger or upset, and have someone be on our side. Meanwhile, the person we're talking to thinks we're looking for their advice, and that makes them feel great. We think they are wise, that they have valuable suggestions, and if they suggest something useful, we'll show our appreciation. Intentionally or not, our conversation has now turned into a game to win validation, and both of us are losing. It's not uncommon for us to play this game, which was identified by the psychiatrist Eric Berne in the 60s, along with about 36 other games that he described in his book, Games People Play. Games, according to Berne, are patterns of interaction with a concealed motivation. While Berne seems to ascribe a certain amount of malice and deception among the people playing any one of these games, more recent research suggests that we often slip into them unawares. It's almost habit to hide what we really need or want from others. And these games are so familiar. They're also ancient. In our parsha this week, Chayei Sarah, we have a record of 2 of these deceptive games. The first one takes place right after Sarah's death. Abraham wants to buy a plot of land for the family burial cave. The Hittites who inhabit the land say they'll let Abraham pick his favorite plot and bury Sarah there for free. After all, how could they charge someone who has been chosen by God? And this is one of the places where I really wish I could hear the ancient storytellers tell the Torah, because the text looks pretty innocent, but it really seems like the Hittites are making fun of Abraham. Abraham, however, is in the midst of his grief. He does, however, notice that the Hittites are playing a game. He insists on buying the land for its full price and asks them to help acquire a piece of land that belongs to Ephron. Ephron, of course, happens to be in the crowd and repeats the offer to give Abraham whatever land he wants as a gift. Abraham, again, insists on paying full price. He too plays the game by not asking outright, "How much does the land cost? Just tell me." And so, because he doesn't do that, Ephron continues and replies, "My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels. What's that between you and me?" 400 shekels. That might not be a whole lot today, but that was a significant amount of money in biblical times. For comparison, King David buys the site of the future temple in Jerusalem for a mere 50 shekels, and that's with oxen included. While David may have been given a special deal, and Abraham was certainly able to afford the cost, it's clear that Ephron names a higher price than the land was worth. Maybe he expects to haggle with Abraham, maybe he knows of Abraham's wealth, or maybe he's just trying to see how badly Abraham wants the land. Whatever the reasoning, though, Ephron is playing games with a bereaved husband. In that state, Abraham only has so much in him. He pays the full 400 shekels in front of the crowd of Hittites and calls on them to be witnesses to the agreement. Finally, he's able to bury Sarah. Later in the Parsha, Abraham's servant is back in their hometown of Aram Naharaim, or Padan Aram, depending on which part of the story you're reading. He's visiting Abraham's brother's family to find a wife for Isaac. The servant meets Rebekah at the well and knows that she is the one destined to marry Isaac. Rebekah brings the servant home to her brother Laban and her father Bethuel, where a feast is prepared and the camels are cared for. Laban and Bethuel are about to launch into their whole welcome ritual, and probably into a game to see what they can get out of the servant. It wouldn't have surprised me if they had demanded a significant bride price of camels and goats, silver and gold, jewelry and other goods as a condition of letting Rebekah go to marry a relative stranger. By the way, he's both a relative and a stranger. Just wanted to make sure you caught that. It also wouldn't have surprised me if they'd extorted everything and then still refused to let Rebekah go. We know from later stories that Laban is wily enough to play these games of deception and extortion, right? We see it with Rachel and Leah, where even though Jacob wants to marry Rachel, Laban puts Leah up for that wedding. But it doesn't happen here. Why? Maybe it's because the servant's forthrightness throws Laban off his game. The servant has just finished telling the story of how he met Rebekah when he turns immediately to Laban and Bethuel, cuts to the chase, and says, "If you're going to be kind and honest with Abraham, tell me now. And if you're not, tell me now." He doesn't give them a chance to play games and to play with Rebekah and Isaac's future. Instead, he turns the conversation to their character. Are they going to insist on playing games, or are they going to be fair and forthright? As the story continues, Laban tries to manipulate the situation here and there. At first, he seems to be willing to let Rebekah go to Isaac right away, but the next morning, he tries to keep Rebekah home for another week or two. And then, even though she has already agreed to go, Laban insists on asking her again. Rebekah's used to this behavior, and she knows how to deal with it. And the servant has good enough sense to keep to the plan. As a result, the two of them are able to limit Laban's attempts to manipulate the situation to his own benefit. Games, machinations, manipulations, politicking, all of these have long been part of our society. We see them in Torah, and we see them in business, in politics, in classrooms, and even in our personal relationships. Eric Byrne and his students noticed certain games often reflect dysfunction that can tear people and organizations apart. Even this parsha shows us that games can ruin relationships and harm people who are just doing their best. We learn from the servant's forthrightness that kindness and honesty allow us to deal with real issues and real needs. And we see that when we ourselves are kind and true, we will often get the same in return. Sometimes, unfortunately, society demands that we play the game. There's only so much we can do to change these cultural norms that have literally been around for thousands of years. But we can find ways to stop games when they're played in our personal relationships. We can be like Abraham's servant, who demands honesty up front. We can stand up and speak out when we see someone being taken advantage of, like I wish one of the Hittites would have done when Ephron overcharged a grieving Abraham. And when I find myself starting to complain to someone and I don't want a solution, I've started saying that I just need to vent and want someone on my side. I also try to ask someone who's complaining what they need, and my friends have started to do that for me too. It's amazing how much the dynamic shifts and how much better we feel afterwards. I hope that we can all take this parsha as a reminder to live our lives with kindness, honesty, and fairness so that we can bring blessings of truth, trust, and wholeness to our communities and to our world. Shabbat Shalom. Few announcements. First, thank you to our greeters, Denise and John Schiller. It's nice to see you. Our musical program is made possible with generous support from Edgar Snyder and an anonymous donor. Tomorrow morning, we have Torah study at 8:30 in the morning in the Rogaliner and on Zoom, followed by services at 9:15, also in person on Zoom and on YouTube. Hartman Learning is on Sundays at 10:15, Parsha Study Wednesdays at noon, and Introduction to Judaism is Thursdays at 7. We have a new unit opening up, so even though we've been meeting for a few weeks already, starting in December, you can join in. Next week, first of all, Tuesday is Election Day. Go vote if you are, a registered voter. From Arizona, I don't know that you can do that. You're set, awesome. These elections are always important, even though they are in the middle of a term. Next Friday night, we have mostly musical services with our band and special guest Dan Nichols. His is the Yihiu L'Ratzon that we were singing earlier. I think that might have been the only one of his that we did tonight. And he will also be helping us on Saturday with the informal Shabbat morning service. Reservations are required. In the evening on Saturday at 7 p.m., there is a celebratory sing-along with Dan Nichols and our emeritus Rabbi Jamie Gibson. Again, please, please, please register. They are required, and that will be in here. Our Torah, which we have been waiting to finish for almost 2 years, because we started it in November 2 years ago, will finally be finished. The Siyum, the celebration to conclude the writing of the Torah, will be on Sunday, November 7th at 10 a.m., and please register for in-person seating. During that, Rabbi Gibson and Barbara will help write the last word, and we will roll the Torah to its place in our Torah reading cycle, and have some dancing and celebrating. The band will be there as well. Also, next door's 7th graders are having a bake sale to raise money for Children's Hospital as part of their class Tikkun Olam project. It's happening from October 31st to November 21st, every Sunday after classes from 11:45 to about 12:15. If you have any questions, would like to make a donation, or would like to buy some goodies, please join us. I think that's what we've got. Anything else? Okay. We continue then with Aleinu on page 586, also known as 282.
I do have to note that
You have to.
while the Schillers were away, the Red Sox went on quite a run. And when they came back, I don't know what happened. And while we're thrilled to have you back, it sure would be nice to have the Red Sox in the series instead of who's there. Just for the record. But we're glad you're back. Please join with us. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye aratzot, v'lo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu,
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad,
Ushemo echad. As a congregation, we recall those whose yortzeit occurs in the coming days. As you hear the name of your loved one, we invite you to rise. Lenore Adelson, Max Berger, Henry Burke, Rosaline Birnbaum, Sam Bordoff, Celia Bregman, Leah Broida, Paul Butters, Gertrude Kaplan, Paul Chernew, James Cook, Harry Davis, Lewis Davis, Ida Ebenstein, Beatrice Aaronworth, Irving Epstein, Faye Feldman, Dr. Julius Goldstein, Sandra Grobstein, Stephen Gross, John Gruskin, Benjamin Halpern, Lester Handler, Florence Karp, Louis Kaufman, Lucille Lane King, Herb Cordish, Isidore Kraus, Myron Levinson, Raphael Levin, Norman Levine, Peter Lazarovich, Harvey S. Lutens, Ida Moretsky, Marvin Matoski, Harvey C. Nathanson, Meyer Oringer, Laverne Paris, Ilsa Plout, Benjamin Picorni, Dale Picorni, Rhoda Price, Lloyd Randall, Maida Rubenstein, Betty Rudick, Reverend David Beryl Ryev, Sophie Schwartz, Neil Siegel, Rose Smook, Francis Greeny Trachtenberg, Sabina Binky Weinstein, Bertha Weiss, Alan Zatman. And to those names we add the names of those taken from us only in recent weeks: Peter Lazarovich, Paul Charles Pierce, Jay Zitnick, Ralph Goldberg, Ray Sablowski, and Howard Block. We join together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. We invite the whole congregation to rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Da'miran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. V'oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen.
Amen.
May God grant comfort to all the bereaved among us, and together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Our thanks again to Natalie Smetsky for joining us this Shabbat evening and leading us in worship. We're looking forward to more, Natalie. We conclude with Olam Chesed Yibaneh, with which we began our service. Please join with us.
Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. I will build this world. I will build this world from love. Yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. And you must build, and you must build this world from love. Yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai, then God will build. Then God will build this world from love. Yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Shabbat shalom.